Well, we find ourselves in Anchorage Airport another time, this time to go up to Kotzebue above the Arctic Circle. So it's going to be an interesting video this week. Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Fiona.
We're a retired British couple on a 3.5 month road camping trip around Alaska and the northwest of America.
So, like and subscribe to this channel and follow along with our travels as we finish Alaska and head down the Alcan to the northwest of America.
Our regular followers will know that while we're on a tent camping road trip, we're not above staying in an Airbnb. We're expecting wet weather over the next couple of days, so we'll stay in Airbnbs in Anchorage and be on station for our flight to Kotzebue. We've stayed in some strange Airbnbs over the last 2 months, but none stranger than this one. It's beautiful and conveniently located in Midtown Anchorage, but has a hunter's lodge theme going on. The lounge is full of dead animals, but horrifyingly, this is the view from our bathroom toilet. Undeterred, we took the opportunity to explore Anchorage by foot and trolley tour. We'll fly out on an Alaskan Airlines 737 to Kotzebue and then find Golden Eagle Outfitters for our bush plane flight seeing tour to Kobuk Valley and Gates of the Arctic National Parks. We have an Airbnb booked for 2 nights in Kotzebue and then we'll fly back to Anchorage. If the weather cooperates, we'll then take a day trip bush plane into Lake Clark National Park. Well, we're back from Kotzebue and it all worked out rather well, didn't it? We got there on an Alaskan Airlines 737 on time and walked over to Golden Eagle Outfitters.
And they were ready for us. They were going to fly that day.
Yeah, we were kind of booked on the next day, really, but I had a hint from reviews that sometimes they just say, hey, the weather's good enough and it could get worse, so they waited for 6 other passengers who were expecting to fly the next day to walk in, and when they got 8 of us together, they weighed us in and put us on a de Havilland Turbo Otter for our flight to the 2 national parks.
It was impressive. They were very organized, and we all got a window seat so we could see out of the window. We all got headsets. It was noisy without the headsets on, but it also told us a little bit about where we were and what we were doing.
Spent about an hour and a half, I think, flying over Kobuk Valley, and then finally getting to the sand dunes on one end of Kobuk Valley.
Yeah, and we landed on the sand dunes.
Yeah, it's kind of improbable that in the middle of Alaska there's these sand dunes, but I suppose at one time it was a big glacial valley, and the glacier left all this glacial moraine sand, which is now just duned up and covers about 25 square miles.
And I think it's gradually being taken over by vegetation, and probably in the end it'll all be vegetation again.
Yeah, we didn't spend long there, but that was the Kobuk Valley checked off. And then we took off from the sand dune and headed over to the Gates of the Arctic National Park, and the terrain got much more mountainous and rugged.
We kind of flew down between some short mountains.
Yeah. It was about maybe another half an hour or 3/4 of an hour before we landed on what was a riverbed, effectively, wasn't it?
It was a riverbed, yes. It was a little bit more bumpy.
Yeah.
But it was very special to think that we've gone to these very remote national parks. And we did, they had a national park sign on the plane so we could take photographs of the national park sign.
That was cute.
That was cute.
I thought the Gates of the Arctic was absolutely beautiful as well. The river was this turquoise blue, they said.
It was beautiful, yes.
The water was completely drinkable right out of the river. Not that I had any, but we were invited to just drink the water.
Yeah.
And we had a look around and paddled around the 2 aircraft that were following that route yesterday.
It was very impressive.
Once we headed back from Gates of the Arctic, we had about an hour and a half to fly back to Kotzebue, and then
some bad weather was coming in and they wanted to get us back.
So all in all, it was about 4 hours in the air on that Turbo Otter, and then we landed and paid the balance on our $4,000 excursion, and
that's a bit expensive.
headed to our Airbnb. Kotzebue is a town of 3,000 people and the economic and transportation hub for this northwest Arctic region of Alaska. Indigenous people make up around 70% of the population. Our visit to Kotzebue was short, but we did walk the length and breadth of this small community. There's clearly a deep community bond here. Nobody passed us in a car or on an ATV without a smile, wave or nod. There were children everywhere. Over a quarter of the town's population are under 15 years old. They were playing ball in the street, riding the bikes, bouncing on the trampolines in their dishevelled yards. Every child said hello as we walked by. Some offered helpful advice on avoiding stray dogs or such. We found the one place in town where it was possible to purchase alcohol. Helpfully, the liquor store was adjacent to the police station, courthouse and jail. I was required to apply and buy a license to purchase alcohol. I attested that I had never had any alcohol-related offences, submitted myself to a background check and paid $20 for a 10-day permit. The permit allowed me to visit the store no more than twice in any day and limited my daily purchases to a case of beer or wine liquor equivalent. In much of the USA, I could have bought firearms with less rigorous checks than it takes to buy a 4-pack in Kotzebue. The town looks pretty run down. Most of the homes look like they are in the process of succumbing to the brutal climate and rising sea levels. As a well-travelled Brit, I've sometimes felt the pangs of shame over our colonial past, and I've had some of the same feelings in Kotzebue as I've felt travelling off the beaten path in Hawaii, in the Navajo Nation, and the Lakota reservations in South Dakota. The colonial legacy, manifest destiny, and the ongoing cultural erasure is quite disturbing. We have a nice, relaxing, beautiful weather and a couple of days in Airbnb in Wasilla and Anchorage.
Yeah, it was the best Airbnb we've ever been in. Fully everything. Laundry, pots and pans, salt and pepper, everything that you need.
Perfect.
An Airbnb.
Apparently we've got a new thing on our bucket list that we're going to do today. I don't know how it got on our bucket list. I mentioned this morning that the most hiked trail in Alaska is up Flat Top Mountain next to Anchorage in the Chugach
State Park,
yeah. And Fiona immediately said, we got to do that. That's on our bucket list. So we're going up it.
We are.
What are the stats, Fiona?
The trail is a 3-mile round trip, and it is a well-maintained trail, but it does have a rocky climb to the summit.
A rocky climb?
Yeah, that's what it says. A final rocky scramble to the summit.
Oh, scramble, okay.
So scramble.
We don't have to call in and get some ropes and...
Nope.
Right,
so it's gonna be a bit steep though, because my information tells me it's got an elevation gain of 1,350 feet. So it's going to be a bit steep going up and a bit steep coming down.
Now friends, I'm sure you're thinking 3-mile loop, 1,400 feet gain. It's a hike for schoolgirls, but remember, I've got a new knee.
We aren't schoolgirls anymore. real high here.
All right, we're in the last bit. Oh, Fiona, what have you put me through? Yeah, suddenly it's a bucket list item. Yeah, I made the mistake of Googling the most popular activities in Anchorage, and flat top mountain hike came up as top 10. We're in the sunlight. How on earth are we going to get down? Don't look up.
There's the flag.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a scramble.
So, Michael, was this a good idea?
It was a brilliant idea. Bucket list item checked off. Nobody said it was easy.
That was very tricky.
Coming down was kind of harder in a way than going up, but at least we weren't out of breath so much. But it was pretty slippery, and we didn't always find the best path, I don't think. Fiona ended up on her bum.
I did.
But
I didn't break any wrists.
Yes, went down pretty hard.
Elbows.
We visited Anchorage in 2019 and loved the town. After the long winter, the whole town came out to play in the downtown area for the summer months. We sought out the rooftop bar where we hung out until the sun set at 11 p.m. in 2019. Unfortunately, it had closed down. Sadly, the downtown area now seems to be struggling, and the party has moved out to Midtown. We found a couple of good breweries in Midtown and enjoyed a similar experience of watching the sun slowly being embraced by the horizon. Lake Clark National Park is the last of the 8 Alaskan national parks for us to visit. It's proven elusive so far. No roads lead to Lake Clark National Park. We had planned to take the boat trip to it from Ninilchik, but the weather contrived against us. However, we were able to find and book a flight-seeing bush plane trip from Anchorage. Lake Clark was designated a national park in 1980. The park protects rainforests along the coastline of Cook Inlet, alpine tundra, glaciers, glacial lakes, major salmon-bearing rivers and 2 volcanoes, Mount Redoubt and Mount Iliamna. Mount Redoubt is active, erupting in 1989 and 2009. Both Redoubt and Iliamna were quite visible a few days ago from our campsite in Ninilchik. Fly 907 is a small operation run by our pilot, Luke. Luke was born in Alaska and raised in a remote fishing lodge. He learned to fly before he learned to drive. 4 of us squeezed into his Cessna 206, with me taking the co-pilot seat. We flew about 100 miles southwest and landed on a beach in Lake Clark National Park. From the makeshift landing strip, we hiked a short distance to a bear viewing spot overlooking some meadows. Multiple coastal brown bear families were happily grazing on the grass. While we watched and photographed the bears, Luke was paying attention to a thick fog rolling in from the Cook Inlet and suggested we get out while we could. We escaped the fog and embarked on a 30-minute flight over the glaciers and other scenery of the national park. We've flown low over coastal Alaska several times in the last few weeks, and I've become fascinated by the patterns we get to see in the land below us. On the flight back to Anchorage, I tried to capture some of these weird and wonderful motifs created in the tidal estuaries and glacial rivers. Well, Fiona, that's another video in the books. We've completed our Kotzebue and Lake Clark adventures.
Yeah, and what an experience that was. I feel very lucky to have visited those remote national parks. Flying in the planes was part of the journey as well. I loved it. Being so close to the ground, you can see everything, the way the rivers are flowing, the mountains, the glaciers. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's very different from a scheduled flight, isn't it? And the pilot, of course, if he sees something interesting, can just veer off and go and check out some beluga whales, as he did in the Lake Clark trip, or go over an interesting area of scenery that or village that we can look at.
Now we're off to Valdez. It's quite a long drive, but we'll get there and we'll be camping again for 3 nights.
Yeah, we'll be driving towards the Wrangell St. Elias mountains, and then we veer off down south to the port and town of Valdez. It's apparently a really interesting place, so it'll be a great subject for our next video. So like and subscribe and stick around to follow our adventures in Alaska and the northwest of the United States.